Ladies and gentlemen, good evening, everyone. My name is Dr. Georgios Kapougiannis, member of the Research Committee at LCI Qatar and the Senior Lecturer and Program Leader for the MS in Global Business Communication at the University of Aberdeen dedicated campus here in Qatar, AFG College with the University of Aberdeen. I trust you are all keeping safe and well, wherever you are in this world. On behalf of the LCI Qatar, I would like to welcome and thank each one for joining us this evening for another great learning experience. If you're practicing lean, think about it. Or resisting it, you will definitely enjoy our webinar tonight entitled What is in for Us with Henry Nutt III. I would like to extend our welcome to the partners of LCI Qatar and to thank them for joining us. And these are Qatar University, Ashgal, Ministry of Transport, Ministry of Municipality, the Supreme Committee, Kakrama, Erthuna, Engineers Australia, National Association of Women in Construction, the Institute for Lean Construction Excellence in India, and the Associated General Contractors of America. However, just a few points before we start. The session is being recorded and we will be able at the website of the LCI Qatar to have a copy of the presentation slides by next week. To receive your electronic attendance certificate, you're required to attend at least 90% of the webinar. And if you have any question during the presentation, please type them in the box, in the chat box here, okay? However, we're gonna have the opportunity to discuss more during the Q&A session. However, in case we couldn't cover all of your questions tonight, don't worry, please. We will do our best to post the answers to outstanding questions with the presentation slides. Also, feel free to use a reaction icon during the presentation. The webinar, including the question and answer session, will run for approximately an hour and a half. Microphone and camera are disabled by the host, and we appreciate your full attention during the webinar. However, to maximize your benefit, I suggest that during this time to please stay away from anything that might distract you if possible. At the end of the webinar, please participate in our plus and detail session as usual. Your feedback is really critical to us because we want to make sure that we offer you what is really required and what we want to hear from your ends. And of course, continuous improvement is a part of the lean itself. Now is the moment that you'll be looking for, the most important part of this evening. It's a great honor to introduce you to our speaker, Mr. Henry Nutt III. Henry, good evening from Doha. Without further ado, please.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Georgios. It's been an honor to be here. It's like a welcome back. I was here in 2021 of December speaking on what's in it for me. So this is kind of the sequel, part two of that presentation. So thank you again for having me here, for all the LCI staff that's a part of this and created this day and working rigorously on lean construction. I applaud you for your efforts. And again, it's an honor. Speaking to you from the United States and Northern California, as well as representing the LCI US as a board member and past chair last year. So got a lot to talk about, excited to talk to you about these things and share a little bit about myself and what I'm going to say to you today and talk about why it's relevant. One of the things I know for sure, and there's a lot of technology that's around the world that are assisting us in our efforts to remove constraints and do our jobs and perform better, and collective action groups and collaboration. But one thing is consistent, no matter how much technology and information we have, is we're always going to do it with people. Sure, we have robots and we have technology that will come in and assist, but it will never replace ultimately the human being that has to connect with another person in order to build something and to build it in the most efficient and safe way. And so universally, we still share many of the same struggles, whether we're in Qatar, Middle East, or we are United States or any other part of the country, we have similar issues. I have the honor to be part of LCI Finland in the next couple of weeks and speaking at their annual event. And again, similar struggles, and they really stem down to how people connect with each other, communicate, collaborate, resist, as the word was mentioned earlier, and those things are common. And so I'm going to speak to you from that perspective, and share some slides that has a lot of visual aids, and really kind of get into some of the nuances that I believe that will help answer the question, what's in it for us? Because we spend so much of our time working. And it's one thing that I share with all my audiences whenever I'm speaking is where I live, I commute far to go to work every day. And if I add an hour and a half or 2 hour commute to the job that I'm going to do for 8 to 10 to 12 hours a day, I'm going to spend more of that time with the people that I work with than I do with my family. And so it behooves us to really think about how we can make our environments better as we're putting together these projects and designing these complex systems. How can we do it in such a way where we don't have to become enemies after it, or we come to work every day miserable because just the situations that we face, and many times it has to do with personalities, lack of clarity, lack of design information, poor communication, all the things that again are common, and whether it's scope creep and poor design or lack of design being complete, or constructability issues that we face. So lots of those things we're going to talk about today. And again, I'm going to approach this from, I use the word holistic on intentionally, to really think about the benefits, and not just using the word lean construction loosely, but really recognizing what it has to offer to us as construction professionals, no matter what, whether you're an architect or you're a person installing the work. We all need to benefit from this. So this is a picture actually of a job that we're on loading pipe into a building. And so it's the image that I chose to use when thinking about the team and using innovation and what we need to do to streamline our efforts. So this is just simply a group of guys that are bringing in some racks that we prefab and made some carts, and we'll talk a little about that a little bit later. But just as a start, how do we get our product into the building? What is our start? That's the beginning of us really beginning to install the work, and even how we do that has to be considered. And so those are some of the ideas, and some of these ideas that we talk about today, they come from everyone. And it's really important that we kind of dive into that as well. So just a little bit about Southland by way of background, so that as you're listening to me talk today, what is my background? What experiences and perspectives will I bring to you? They're based on my 17 years at Southland, but 30 plus years in the industry as a sheet metal worker. But Southland is the largest privately held mechanical contractor in the United States. And that's kind of the territories we are in as far as locations, with the red dots across the United States. And we've done work, majority part of the United States. And so a lot of experience, a lot of shared knowledge that we have, a lot of horror stories of things that didn't go well that we've learned lessons from, that I get a chance to understand and figure out how do we become a better company, and how do we execute work more efficiently. And so that's just a little bit about us. You can kind of read that on the side of how many employees we have there and our bonding capacity. And as I say, I represent the NorCal region. And so we probably range in the $260 to $300 million a year range, with work primarily in healthcare and mission critical, life sciences, higher ed, large facilities that typically have 24/7 operations. So specifically who I am, right now I am the pre-construction executive for Southland. Like I mentioned, I've worked here for 17 years, was a general superintendent for 12 of those years. And so just 5 years ago, I kind of stepped into a different role, different capacity, where I was out there leading people and managing the work and managing the people who are doing the work. And now I have a chance to help us win the work and provide opportunities for our company as a whole. Sheet metal worker for 37 those years. Been doing this for a long time, and started out as a pre-apprentice in the trades. And so that's kind of a little bit about my story. The other perspective I think is important for you to understand is I've been a part of the Lean Construction Institute, United States, for probably 15 years. I've been on the board for now the last 6 years. I will term out this year, was the chair last year, and so I had a great opportunity to help lead the organization, and then also partnering with LCI across the country. So it's been pretty exciting. Also a part of the Associated General Contractors of America, national and locally. Been on their board as well, and currently on the Agency of California's board of directors as a VP for specialty contractors. And so this association is one of the largest associations for general contractors, and providing resources and policies and working with the government in order to help negotiate better contracts, to help assist member companies with resources and how to make their companies better and more efficient. And also recently a part of the the California State Licensing Board, Contractors Licensing Board. So that's in Sacramento, California, where I live, and get a chance to work with contractors that are trying to execute work and making sure that they have all their ducks in a row, make sure that they have all their documents correct, and that they're serving consumers the best way possible. And a part of the American Heart Association as well. So that gives us the chance to really talk about the heart and the health of people in the industry. As you may know, at least part of the United States, suicide rate for construction, the construction industry is 4 times higher than industry average. And so we know we're doing something wrong. So when we think about lean construction, we can think about not just how we remove waste and make things more efficient, but it's about how we serve those people that do that work. And so again, we spend so much of our time in this industry working. It matters how we do it and how we show up. And so it's really important that as we're making decisions to streamline processes and create efficiencies and remove waste and dial in what the flow should be, is that we don't forget about the human element. I've wrote a book. I'll share about that in a couple of minutes here. And I consider myself a lean practitioner, and that can mean lots of different things. And also just a people advocate. I want to see people mentally well, physically well when we're doing our jobs. And I think it's possible, even though this industry has been notorious for it not being possible, I believe it's possible. So not going to go over this too long, but again, talking about perspective, I wrote a book, published it back in 2022, and it dives into workforce development. And again, about people come from all walks of life, trying to get into this industry. We have a labor shortage across the country, and we need to go out and essentially fish for different people and get other people interested at a very young age about construction. And from where I'm from, construction was considered something that you did because you couldn't go to college. And so it was considered for those folks who weren't so smart. Okay, you can go and get some tools and go bang some things together. Didn't take a whole lot of brains, and that's untrue. We know that's not true, but it's been the persona and the image that has been created about being a construction worker. And so I like to use the term construction professional because it's what we do. And it's no different than someone deciding to be a doctor or an architect. They have to go to school, they have to get trained, and then they're considered licensed or established to be able to do that certain type of craft. And we will spend years in our craft installing duct, pipe, electrical work, or whatever it may be, pouring concrete. And if we do that long enough, when you think about, especially the leadership in that role, the foremen and the superintendents, those folks that will do this over and over and over again, that they get excellent at their craft, just like anyone else would, and they will manage millions of dollars throughout their career. And so how do you not call yourself a professional? And so I think terminology and the words we choose to use about our craft is really important. And so I believe in raising the bar and not just thinking about construction workers or construction professionals as just people work in the dirt. Although we do many times, we have to go and get in the dirt and dig in the dirt and do all those things. But there's a science to it, there's an art to it, and there's a knowledge that is required to do it with excellence, efficiently, and safely. And so we are certainly professionals. So it's one thing that we must do is raise the esteem and shed a different light on what it means to be in this industry. Because we have treated people very poorly for a skill that can be taken for granted, that everyone knows how to do it, but we know that's not true. And if everyone knew how to do it really well, we wouldn't be in some of the scenarios that we're in on our projects, where we're behind in schedule, or we harm people physically, we make poor judgment, we don't have drawings that are accurate, all these factors that tie into how someone goes out and delivers their work. So these are some of the just some of the principles of the book. You can look at those later, but again, ties into the perspective of what I'm going to talk to you about today. So getting to that, I'm going to read this, and I promise you, I don't have a lot of words in my overall presentation. We'll talk about things, but I think it's really important that this is part of the abstract, and I really want to review this again. And what we're going to do is cover all of this in the slides that will follow this slide. And so hopefully, in the end, we'll have an opportunity for you guys to ask questions as well. So we want to analyze the pivotal role of effective collaboration, streamline processes, and collective goal setting in attaining success within the construction industry's competitive landscape. That is the first objective. We want to examine the multifaceted benefits of lean implementation in construction projects. We want to evaluate strategies for dismantling siloed mentalities within project teams and fostering integration, collaboration, and a shared vision for success. We want to synthesize insights into the utilization of teamwork as a driver for achieving project excellence and realizing larger scale objectives within a holistic framework. And lastly, we want to explore practical methodologies and exemplary practices for augmenting project performance and nurturing a culture of collaboration and success within the context of lean construction environments. So yes, a lot of words, lots of words. What does that all mean? What does it all look like? And I'm a visual person. And so again, I normally don't have this many words on the slide, but I felt it was important because we have the time to kind of walk through it. And what I'm going to do is kind of tell a story with some of the slides and have many stories that tie with these slides that I believe answers all these different questions. So the next couple of slides, a few more words that we'll go over, and then kind of go into really what does it look like for an effective collaborative team streamlined process? What does that really look like? So one of the first things that I think is really important, this could be insert yourself on your project somewhere. You're on the team, whether you're the person on the design side, or you're the person that manages the field, or you're a person that's in the field, whatever. You're somewhere on this team, and somewhere along the line, you're going to collaborate with someone on this job. You're going to get together, whether it's a group of 3 that may manage the entire scope of work, or it may be a group of 3 that manage a particular part of work. Doesn't matter what size managing skills or you're handling. What is important here is how do we create the proper mindset? Because many times we see jobs fail, and where we see them fail is in the field, but many times we don't pull the layers back to recognize or go through the process of the 5 whys and do that analysis of really what was the real why? How did it fail? And it's easy to point the finger at the person who's holding essentially the bag, the person who has the tool in their hand, the person who is walking through some issues that have become problematic, that were unforeseen. And it's easy to say it's that person's fault. They're blowing it, they're messing up our team, our collaborative effort. When many times when we do that analysis, we'll find that the issue lied way before that. And if we can begin to think about our mindset and think about how our egos get in and get inserted into how we make decisions, and how as leaders we're not necessarily looking in the mirror, we're looking out the window, blaming others, and then when we're taking credit when things go well and not praising our team, and our teams know that and react and respond in that way. So one of the first things that we can do is check our mindset. Is how do we show up every day as a designer, as a constructor, as a coordinator, as a worker? How do you show up every day? And this picture here on my right is just, it was a picture I took when I was in an airplane once, and I thought about how we live in different worlds in many cases. Where we go home to every day may be different than the folks that we work next to. That neighborhood might be great and affluent, and others might not be. And if we carry a mindset that we're somehow above the clouds and we really aren't connected to the real world, it'll look just like that. And the decisions that we make on our job sites, those mindsets that we bring that are part of our DNA in life, and we have no ability to kind of pull ourselves down and recognize where we really are and what are the important decisions that we need to make or how we integrate with our teams, we are many times in the clouds. Whereas the real world below us is dark and raining, and above it's the sunny and shiny day. But that's not reality. But that may be our reality. And so how we show up every day is critically important. And no matter what technology you have, no matter what lean tools that you're using, if you are not implementing them with a mindset that is going to genuinely help solve problems, you might as well be in that plane above the clouds, because you're not going to be impactful, you're not going to be effective, and you're not going to get people to want to follow you because they don't believe in what you're saying, because you're checked out and you may not even realize it. And that's just a human thing. It doesn't matter what part of the country we're from. I think some countries are better at it than our country because of the community that exists in on the jobs. And that's what lean construction is attempting to do, is create community, is create a level playing field for everyone to be able to have a contribution. Because before, the folks that made the decisions were always only the executives. I'm an executive, but I've come through the ranks, and I understand that being an executive can put you out of touch because you're not as close to the work anymore. And you think you have decisions that you can make that are effective, but you're not sure. If you're not going out there to the field, understanding the nuances of the job, you're removed from it. So you're not really there. You're not really impactful as you may think. So it's really important that we keep that in our mindset. So what are the key attributes of effective collaboration? Just the visual kind of explains it, that all them turning in sync is important, right? So having clear communication is essential. We got to create opportunities in specific times to have those types of meetings where we're talking to each other, that everyone in the room has an opportunity to has a voice, to insert themselves in the conversation, that not one person should just be dominating conversations. And what makes it effective is those things, is that everyone working together. It doesn't matter how big the wheel is, because if one of those wheels stop, all of the whole chain stops. And so being the biggest is not about being the best or the most impactful. There's a responsibility for that, but it's not necessarily the most impactful. And so again, one of these wheels stops turning, all the wheels stop turning. It doesn't matter how small that wheel is. What matters is that they all work together. And so there has to be clear communication. There has to be a willingness to build trust. Something we hear in the United States a lot more, and I believe around the world, is talking about trust and the value and the importance of building teams that trust each other. Because it's easy to show up in a way where we don't. And part of our background, we do these exercises called worldviews, and it basically depicts how you were raised. It's not about being wrong or right. It's just how you were raised is how you look at the world. And you might have been raised in a way where you're a suspicious person. You're skeptical, that you approach people with the ability of saying, I don't believe you until you prove it to me. Or others might give you that trust day one. So, and it's not about the one being wrong, one being right. It's recognizing all those different, excuse me, all those different personalities come to the table, come to your job site, and function how they function. And so it's important for us to understand how we communicate with each other, how we build that trust, and that disciplinary coordination is all the different teams and the layers of those smaller teams that exist within our project team. How are they working together? Is there a means to create a smaller team that has a responsibility that's a part of that wheel? And then they come to the larger team to communicate what their findings are and the real issues and being very transparent. And then how do you solve problems? Conflict resolution. What are you doing to solve those problems? What are you doing to recognize the problems that exist? And then how do you go about solving them? And is it one person with the loudest voice that gets the ability to have the answer? Or is that person going to their team saying, I need your feedback. I need your experiences and your exposure to help me make a more holistic decision. And then so sharing that knowledge and how do you do that? You know, whether it's through technology, whether it's through some intentional program that you may have internally, but what style of communication are you using to make sure that the team as a whole is getting the information that it needs in a timely manner to solve the problems that every project will have. Talk about streamlining processes. What do we do? How do we do that? What does that look like? So standards can be tricky, but we have to have some type of base, right? We have to have a baseline to establish so that we can recognize what does good look like and what does better look like, and really recognizing. And that's unique to each project team. And what really is unique and great about that, if you do it really well, is that you're getting the ideas from the key stakeholders. Establish your standards, bring your past experiences from another project, and everyone does that collectively. And you're saying, what does great look like for us, for this project team? What is our measurement for that? How are we going to determine what our standards should look like and what it should be? And that's something that, again, it's an investment. Seems like maybe sometimes for people a waste of time, but it's the most important thing when it hasn't happened when you need it. And so you got to make sure that you recognize the value in it. How you involve, we talked about technology integration. How do you bring technology into your project? You know, we do a lot of, obviously, building information modeling and different folks who do that. Lots of technology resources to help identify deliveries and order and planning and all those things that are important on our job. What works for your particular project team? You know, is it something that you've used before? What lessons have you learned from it? What do you integrate to this job? What does that look like? All those things are important. And again, they all have to come from different people within the project team. So the whole perspective is integrated, and then you make the better decision. Obviously, lean construction, right? It's obviously one of the things we have to do, and that's an effort that is ongoing for all of us. Efficient resource management. What are those resources that we're trying to utilize to bring into our project team? What is waste? We can't bring in every piece of technology and every resource, so we really have to be disciplined in making sure that we're doing the right things, because the technology is not going to be the silver lining. It's great. Technology is amazing, and it helps us do things a lot faster, more efficiently, and even more accurately. But it's not a magic pill. It still requires people behind the scenes to operate it, to input, to maximize its capabilities. And it could bring the greatest failure very quickly, or it could bring the greatest success very accurately. But it's a matter of how the people choose to use it. But never mistake it for a magic pill that because you have this great technology that someone sold us is going to make everything better. It still requires the discipline, the communication, the collaboration, all those things. And then just being on an effort that we're going to continuously improve. We're going to continuously improve on our processes and develop our team to work as a unit. One more slide with a bunch of words, and then we're going to get into some of the other visuals. Collective goal setting. I like this image because everyone is holding the target or the goal, the arrow to get to the target, and it is everyone. It's everyone that should be in that room that is making that decision, whether you're on the larger project team leadership group or you are on a smaller part. Doesn't matter. We all have those goals. We all have a mission, and the greater mission is getting the team together. One of the best projects that I've been on, and it's 37 years. It took me almost 20 years to be on the best project that I've ever been on. And I had 2 of them back to back before I transitioned out into this role now. And it's a shame that it took that long for me to experience a really good project that changed the way I thought about construction and so many others. And one of the things that we did was we created our goals, sat down like as a team and created this tree that had, what is our job values? What do we value? What do we want to have? And they're very non-traditional things like mental well-being was one of the things that we said we wanted to do. Excellence and communication and collaboration. All these different kind of intangible goals that had to do with how humans behave around each other. We didn't talk about technology. It was an offshoot. It was definitely a byproduct, but technology wasn't on our list of saying one of our values is having the best technology. No, we talked about how we're going to interact as a team, and it was discipline, and it was hard work, and it was a nonstop effort of continuously trying to improve and work together. One of the best projects I had, and we were all holding the arrow. Was the great part, and it's no different than a sport. When the person that doesn't have the ball and the ball comes to that person, regardless if you're playing soccer or baseball, when that ball comes to you and you're not there, you're the most important person on the team, and you fail the team. And that's what it feels like when we drop the ball in our construction project. So whether you're in the design portion and maybe not speaking up about something that you've experienced before, or you're not bringing in constructability people to coordinate with you about what you're designing and how it may be built or fabricated and then eventually installed. Is it going to create a dangerous scenario in the installation process? Have we thought about it logistically? All these factors that, because we're sometimes in a silo, we don't know any better. And so we're making decisions based on our experiences. And that's great, but you might need to include some other people to make sure that the decisions that you're making is consideration of other risks that you may not be aware of. It doesn't mean you're not smart. It just means that you're smart enough to know that you don't know better. So you bring in people to help you with those decisions. So having aligned objectives, the stakeholder involvement, getting the people who ultimately are making decisions, the owners, the major stakeholders, the decision makers from every project team. How are you guys coming together to share and make sure we call having skin in the game, essentially being responsible and accountable for the decisions that are being made, creating measurable milestones, things that, we hear the term small wins. Look for those small wins. Try to create scenarios where your team gets a chance to celebrate. And it doesn't mean it happens every day, but every once in a while needs to have that kind of insert of a win. And it doesn't have to be the gigantic splash. It can just be a small but important achievement. And so you have to create those measurable milestones and then celebrate them with your team. Being flexible and adaptable goes without saying. If you're rigid and stuck, and typically rigid things kind of break at some point, and so we got to be able to bend. We got to be able to say, "Hey, I've been in this industry, for 37 years. I may think I know the best way to do a lot of things, but I also need to be willing to listen to someone that's never done it before." And you say, "Well, kid," is what we say over here, "I'll forget more than you'll ever remember." And I hear that, and I tell people it's disrespectful because some of the best ideas that I've got are people who've never done it before. Why? Because they're going to ask questions that I don't think about because I'm so stuck on what I know and what I've done. Even if it's been good and right in its time, this curious brain comes out and says, well, why do we do that? And I have a story of a young project engineer that challenged about 8 of us one day hanging some louvers. And they were really long and tall louvers that we had to put in. And he came up and said, have we ever thought about prefabbing that? One of my 30-year guys said, no, we don't do it that way. Like, well, and I was the boss at that time. So I said, you know what? That makes sense. Let's think about that. So we walked the job, we looked at this site, and we ended up prefabbing these louvers that went from our job site or our office facility and then shipped to this job site. By the time my resistant naysayers, my leads in the field, by the time they got really involved with this, they took that idea and just progressed it, where they were creating these unique solutions to even install them. But it took one person, the youngest person in the room, to just challenge us. And then we took it and embraced it and not allowed our egos to say, well, how's this kid going to tell us how to do our job? It was more about, let's listen and see what we can learn from this. And they did. And that project engineer is now our operations manager of our division. And so he was curious. He challenged us. He wasn't afraid to speak up. And so are you creating environments that allow your teams to speak up? Because sometimes the best ideas come from a person who's never done it because there's no roadblocks in their mind. They're just going to ask. And it may be an outlandish question, but it doesn't mean it's wrong. So being flexible. And lastly, the regular progress reviews, again, it ties into celebrating your wins and recognizing that we're keeping people accountable for what we do. Okay, so now, well, I got one more, and then I'll go into more of the other stuff. So promoting open, so how do we dismantle silos? I love this visual because everybody's functioning in their own silo. They're fine, they're great, but what they're not doing is working as a team. And so we got to work together. How do we promote? We got to promote open communication. We got to bring those walls down. We got to be intentional about it. Just because you have a big room, this is great, it's important, doesn't mean people are communicating. The idea is that I'm not going to send you an email when I can go walk over and talk to you. The idea is that I'm going to be more intentional about how we connect and talk about the problems that exist. Got to have rules of engagement and how you do that, but it's important to do it. Having that unified vision that you established that we talked about, again, that cross-functional communication and collaboration is how do we get these teams on different platforms to be on the same platform and be able to walk across each other and talk to each other when it's necessary. We talked about implementing technology, but understanding that it's not the key to everything. And then the leadership and the cultural change. So you who are in the room, who are the leaders, who are really impact the multitudes of people on your projects, not only is your presence important, but how you show up every day. And we talked about that a little bit in regards to how do you impact the culture of your team? And that's a question I want to leave you with, and think about that for yourself. All right, so if we do all this stuff that we just talked about, all the stuff that we're just sharing, and it's not a perfect science, you're gonna do it like riding a bike, you're gonna fall, you're gonna get back up. But if you are intentional about those types of strategies, what are the benefits? What are the things that we see happening? And even Southland, we're not a perfect company. We have a lot of areas that we need to improve in and grow, but we're committed to that growth. We're committed to seeing ourselves in the mirror and saying, hey, this is where I fell down. How do I get better? All right, so let's start out with this. This is a simple whiteboard. Everything doesn't require technology. This is an innovative idea, though. And what does this do? This is simply a whiteboard that we use to track productivity in the field. And initially, we'd ask people to put their names, and they were hesitant. This was like probably 10 years ago we first did this. And I stole it from an LCI Congress event that I went to. Some other company had it. So we'd ask them to put their names down initially, talk about what their task for the day is, what they thought their goal was going to be, and then what it actually was, and then why or what was the problem, why you didn't get to your goal, or what made it so you did better, and then what you need. Well, initially, because of our culture back then, nobody wanted to put their name on the board because they felt like someone was going to use it against them. Someone was going to say, okay, this person didn't perform, so they're the first person to get laid off. When it wasn't the goal, wasn't the purpose, but because their trust didn't exist, I understood it. I said, okay, fine. Let's scratch the names. Let's just talk about a team and talk about your output. What this did for us was it wasn't about identifying what person wasn't getting something done. It was recognizing what prevented them from getting their job done to inform the field leadership to do something about it. And so in real time, so you're getting this information. Hey, I want to hang X amount of feet or pipe this day, and here's what I need to do it. You go out and do it, and then you're short, and you get a chance to say, hey, here's what happened. Material was missing, someone was in the way, or whatever happened. You get that information than just blaming, pointing a finger, and assigning blame to someone without really solving a problem. So this allowed us to really have this transparent view of what was happening every day at our daily huddle. And as we built trust, we are able to put names because our people realize they're not out to get me. So if you had a team of people that understood what is the task, what is the goal, what is the output, what do you think you can do, let them do it and see what happens, and then improve on that every day. And that could be in the design phase of a job or the installation construction. Empowering our field leadership. Here's one of our big rooms for a big job we did for Google years ago. Well, actually not too long ago. And it was the second best job I ever been on. And this is why. Because we had a general contractor that came in that had this long schedule, and they told us, or the general superintendent for the project, senior superintendent, said, this is not my schedule. And when I didn't believe him, because I get the schedules pushed down our throat, and here's what you're going to perform to, and it probably has lots of holes in it. But this person said, this is our schedule. I need you to challenge it, poke holes in it, and let's own it all together as a team. And so these are two of our field leaders that were talking about their work and what they needed from others while they're performing their work. How can you hinder what I'm doing? Here's what I need from you. And everyone got a chance to do that, to talk about their scope. What's important here is that he's not a superintendent. He's leading a smaller group of people, but he's not the ultimate superintendent. But because he's closest to the work, he gets a chance to go in there and let people know what he needs to get his job done. He's doing a couple of things there. One, he's created empathy, which is so critically important in this industry. How do you get someone to recognize what my day looks like and feels like, and then what I need from you to help me get there? And it's not just a one-sided thing. It's a group effort, but this is a snapshot of empowering leadership. The folks that actually are doing the work. So, and listening to them and giving them a platform to be able to insert their issues and let people know what's important. And they take ownership of that. You got to establish a project team. This is that same job. There's that superintendent that told us that this is not my schedule. And our guys get a chance to talk to their superintendents. These are all on my right. These are the superintendents running this big project, and they allowed us to talk to them as a trade partner to their leadership about how and what we need from them. But what we're doing is establishing one project team. On a job site, you have a multifaceted group of dynamic teams that work for different companies. And the problem that we have with our mindset is because we all work for different companies, even though we're working on the same project, we all compete against each other, although we're supposed to be one team. Can you imagine like a baseball game or soccer game that everybody on the team is playing against each other, not for one purpose, right? The only two people who are against each other are the opposing teams, but everybody on that one team are supposed to support each other. And many times that's the problem, is that there is not support. So as an electrician, fighting against the sheet metal worker on the same project. And at the end of the day, we're all trying to win. The architectural team fighting with whoever else, with the general contractor or the project team, not realizing we're all on the one team. And when one fails, it typically trickles down to everyone else. Very rarely does one company make a bunch of money and everybody else, or one company fails and everybody else is doing great. Typically, it's like all of us are not doing well. You may squeak out a little bit, but for the most part, if there's an issue that creates problems for productivity, it's going to affect everyone on the job. So it's important for us to recognize that. Establishing one team. Building a productive and safe environment. We can't speak enough about safety, emotionally and mentally, as well as physically, how dangerous our jobs are and how we can be very preoccupied with what we're trying to accomplish and what we bring to work every day, from our families to drive in, and then how we show up to get it done. We want everyone to be productive. We want everyone to be safe, but we can't have a banner that just says, go be productive and be safe, but we do nothing to help create that as a standard. So it goes back to that planning team, the very beginning. How are you going to impact these people that represent your job, that actually are the ones who go and do the job, traveling from all around the world potentially to come and work for your particular project, whether they make pennies essentially or they're making top dollar, they're all important. We all need them. And when something happens with them that goes bad, everyone knows about it and it impacts the entire project. So it's important for us at the very beginning, how are we creating that foundation for these folks to win, to just come to work and do their job? How are we doing that effectively every day? How do we make sure that we allow that to happen? Here's another thing that I think is important. We talk about the goals we have for this talk, the abstract. This is a sample of an actual labor feedback report. One of the things that in this industry that has been notorious is that, at least on our part of the country, is that most of our people have no idea what success looks like. They don't have an idea of, like, they feel good about maybe what they got installed, but they don't know if that was that the measurable goal? So one of the things that we do is we sit down with our teams and they know what their goals are. So this is a report that will show, let's look at the highlighted column there. That SM stands for sheet metal, and it's this exoskeleton project doing layout. And it gives us, it'll break out hours in a code that we have, what the costs were and what the dollars per hour were. And then every week, typically, they'll track that information to say, here's how you did, and here's where you're at. Here's where you're at job to date. How are you tracking against the actual budget? How powerful is it for someone to actually understand, hey, man, I'm doing okay, or we're in trouble here. And I know it in real time, and I can make some decisions because I know that I'm supposed to have this amount of footage in every day, but I'm not getting that footage in because I got people that are obstructing my productivity and my ability, or I need more people, or whatever it may be. But you have this information at your arsenal as a worker in the field, understanding. So there's the person that leads this that will be like a foreperson that's in the field, that knows this information and is able to help their teams understand where they should be, and give them real good feedback on how they're producing every day. Not to beat them, not to abuse them because they missed something, but to understand the whys, and then show, hey, here's where we're at. And that lower one here below the yellow kind of gives you an idea of what it looks like to track it every week, and knowing the percentage of completion versus the percentage of cost spent. Those kind of things are really important. And does it mean everyone on the project team has to know this information? No, but it's the key people that can help the folks who are actually leading those teams to say, hey, we're falling down here and we got to figure out what's the problem. And you can have real answers to real issues. There's no question that safety is a key component to having a good project. It's a byproduct of what we do. This job here was a big hospital we did, and actually we went like almost 5 years without an injury, and that was just a snapshot of on the roof of our project team. Let's think about when we're doing this really well, we do reduce injuries. Job is clean. There's not a lot of trip hazards around. There's a lot of visuals and things that really indicate we care about you on this project. Psychological safety, we hear that term a lot here in the United States now, and so we want to lower stress. We want people to come to work and not be preoccupied with a bad job, and knowing that they're important to us, and they know that. It's not like they wonder, they know it. It's an increased morale when safety is good. I'm talking about, again, physical aspect of safety as well as the emotional part of safety. Team building, when we're doing great, we're high-fiving each other, we're celebrating each other. Doesn't mean we don't have bad days, doesn't mean we don't have stress, but we are pointing the issues at a process and not a person, and we're recognizing how to take responsibility and not passing the buck and pointing fingers at people, especially when they don't see us or hear us. Higher productivity and efficiency is also a byproduct. Fewer disruptions and an enhanced project reputation, where if you have a labor shortage and your job is known for just being this bad job, or you're a company that is known for running poor projects, and the person has a choice, yes, I may have no choice because I have to make money, I'm gonna come to your job, but you're not gonna get my best. You're gonna get a mediocre level of productivity because I don't even wanna be here because this job has a bad reputation for just not taking care of its people, or I'm just a number. And so at some point, you're just going to dispose of me anyway. So it's, again, how we treat people and how we bring those types of ideas to the table that people understand their value, that this job is going to be productive, it's going to be safe, you're going to make money, there's going to be another job afterwards, hopefully. But all these things we're going to be able to do, and while we're doing it, we're going to treat you like the human being you deserve to be treated like. Here's another example of some innovations and what you do when you collaborate. Years ago, would have never been able to install in-wall before Framer had all their frames up. But we coordinated with the Framer and were able to install these in-wall. These are two different parts of a job that typically we are the last to go in almost. But we were able to put these in before the Framer, coordinated with them, and just boosted our productivity, our ability to get things done fast. Our teams loved it. We didn't impede on anyone else, but it required a coordinated effort to say, hey, let's try something different here. This is possible. This was a riser duct that we did that had a telescoping frame where we attach, this is a very dangerous kind of part of our work, where we're dropping these pieces of duct with a crane and a shaft, and our people have to get in the shaft and actually go in and typically put supports around this ductwork. Well, we came up with an idea that really was cost neutral. It didn't save us a ton of money, but what it did was it mitigated safety issues that could potentially happen in someone falling down the shaft, because we didn't have to crawl in the shaft, because we had this telescopic support that was, once it was landed, we were able to extract this thing out and then weld it down to the plate. So it's things like that sometimes that you could think about things that you've done over and over again, but how could you make it better? And this is one of the ideas that one of our team members came up with, and improve the safety of a person, and how that morale, built the morale up for our team, where their company cared about them enough to do something that wasn't just about saving money, but was also about creating a safer environment. These are ideas that some of our plumbing guys come up with sinks and prefab, and putting things on wheels and fitting through doorways, and being able to lift with forklifts very easily and quick, and removing all the waste, like the cardboard and all the other parts that come with it. All that stuff never gets to the job site, and you're able to have people focus on just what they're paid to do: install it. Same deal here with the lavies. Again, this custom cart that we've made that, again, fits through a doorway. All the parts and pieces are inside of it, and they land where they land. So there's not a big box that somebody's carrying around, has to unpack it, throw it in the trash. All that's time. All that is time. Every day that you do that, think about all the wasted effort. Sure, if somebody does it, probably doesn't make as much money, but they still have to get it done, and they still obstruct the lifts that take people up and down the job site. Someone who has to remove the debris from the project site, all those things that you can account for over the life of a project, whether it's 6 months or 5 years. Think of how much money you can save by addressing those types of issues. Talked about the end walls already. I'm down to like 4 minutes now. So talked about the end walls. Here's a cart that we use for hangers in our pipe. And the pipe, the hangers are probably the most laborious part of our job when it comes to piping and plumbing. And so these pipe racks here will go on a scissor lift where a person, they're marked and numbered in the order that they get installed. So they're cut different dimensions, and they slip right onto a scissor lift where that person has all their parts right next to them every day while they're working. So they're not having to go up and down and get stuff. Again, little efforts, little things that shave off maybe minutes in an hour. But if you think about an 8-hour day, a 10-hour day, a 12-hour day times 50 people, how much money are you spending? But these are ideas you have to have early on, collaborating, talking with your team, challenging, getting people who do the work to have involvement in the conversation, not just the hierarchy, not just the people who are the smartest allegedly, but the folks that are actually installing the work, get a chance to input. How could I make my day better? Another example is a modular exhaust stack that we built this for a big pharmaceutical company that took some folks with building the actual frame and installed the duct while it was lowered, so that when we put it in the air, no one has to get on this 20-foot ladder on the roof to do all this installation. So all the work was done at ground level. And so where you see where it's bolted together here, that was on the ground, installed everything, and then lifted it up with a crane so that then it sets down and it's going to be up 20 feet in the air on the roof. But no one has to get up there and do anything. Everything's going to be down at a regular 8-foot ladder. So it's those kind of things that again, you get people to think about, how do we do this differently? And this applies to every part. And I'm focusing on a lot of the field stuff, but it applies to every part of our job. How do we challenge what we do every day and make it better? What can we do? People use the term outside the box, whatever. It's more about, how would I approach this differently? What would I do better that I've done? And sometimes, again, it requires somebody who's never done it to help you see better. Last couple of slides here. This is the most important one for me, is that think about your job. Think about what you've done, whether you are new in the industry or you've been doing it a long time. We have a mindset that we've brought to this industry based on our own experiences. And we may try to get people to change. We may get people who are resistant to change because they're just burnt and they're tired and they've been abused essentially, and they don't believe in the industry anymore. They think every job is going to be this way, and they have no reason to think otherwise. So what do we have the power to do? We can't change culture by telling people what they should do. We can't change the person, but we can't change what people believe. And we essentially can't change their behavior. But what we can do is we can change their experience. And this is where lean construction really can come in and be a very powerful tool, is not just from saying, oh, we're lean. It's really about really recognizing the nuances, the things that are hidden, the things that are in the layers of the individuals that really become a part of a team, and they feel like they really are a team. It's changed the experiences. And those last 2 jobs that I've done in my career changed my experience, where I become a proponent and a spokesperson for lean, not because I just want people to do it, but because I believe that it does really make an impact. And I can speak from a very passionate place because I've seen it. I've seen resistors and folks that have been doing it for longer than I was and were pushing back. But by the time the job was over, they're asking me, how would I get on another project like this? Because their life changed. How they went home to their families changed, because they weren't angry and ridiculed and beat up every day because they had a job. It wasn't about holding hands and singing, but it was about respect. And we changed their experiences so that the results changed, and they got more involved, more engaged, and became part of the overall process. So that is it. There's my contact information. If anyone wants to reach out to me, I mean that with all due respect. You have my WhatsApp and my email, and I will turn it back over.
Thank you so much. Honestly, Henry, you put me in a position really to recall what I did during my PhD at the University of Salford, because I did a lot of effort and work about collaborative culture in construction. And this is something that is truly missing. And as you said, it's about people. It's not about the technology. The process is there. But how can we really put the things together? This is really, really, really critical.
Yeah.
So on the stage, I would like to thank Henry for dedicating some of your precious time to share with us such an outstanding, really insightful and engaging presentation. Short but very important messages came out through, really. And to our participants, please, I would like to remind you really to submit your feedback, plus for positive, and whatever is for you really to make this session to be better in the future. So on behalf of LCI Qatar, Mr. Abdullah Al-Bakir, the Vice President of LCI Qatar, will present to you a certificate of appreciation. So at this stage, we would like to welcome your questions. And let's take the first question.
Engineer Abdullah, you want to say something?
Yeah, okay. I thought the question first. Okay. Thank you, Henry, for a great lecture. This is certification of thanks from LCI Qatar. Looking forward to see you again, more lectures, and we'll leave the location open for the questions. Thank you, Henry.
Thank you, Dr. Abdullah. It's, again, been my honor, and yeah, definitely open to questions or comments for sure. Just in the day, we're all in this together, trying to build our projects the most efficient way.
So let me start with a question. Okay, because I saw the whiteboard. I really like the way, how the data written actually by the people there. So do you see any, how to say, people's personality on the way that they try to communicate really to have an impact during these meetings, and whatever is agreed during these meetings, do they take on board and back to the field?
Yeah, that's a great question. So how people show up with something like that for a project or just a team that is essentially, that's a new thing for them. It's really hard. It's in the beginning. It's a challenge to be transparent and say what you think you're going to do, because you automatically feel like you're going to get penalized. You're going to get penalized when you don't meet the objective. And so what's important for our leadership in that realm is to recognize that is a real concern. So how do you help people understand this is not about identifying how slow they are or identifying something that is negative towards them and how they do their work, but it's really about learning possibly what the field leadership is going to understand and learn so they can do their jobs more effectively. And we had a scenario with like one of the 5 whys of someone ordered a piece of ductwork, and it was a foreman. Foreman ordered the piece of ductwork from our shop, and he got it when he got it, and he was upset because it was late. So he's yelling at the driver for the ductwork being late. So when you go back and we did this 5 why analysis, we asked the question, okay, well, when was the order made? And it was ordered in the afternoon the day before. So the reason that happened is because the foreman realized he had a part he was missing, and the driver was in traffic. So, hey, I was late because there was traffic. Well, why were you late? Because the part wasn't ready when it was set, and they said it was going to be ready. Well, why wasn't that? Well, because it was ordered, late in the afternoon. Well, why was it late in the afternoon? Well, because the person who ordered it, just discovered that they needed it. Well, who was that person? It was the person yelling at the driver. So, you really get a chance to really understand, to create, hopefully, again, not even to criticize that person, but to really recognize, are you taking like a real look at the different scenarios that create the problems that we have? Then it's just so easy to point a finger at the person that's holding whatever. They're the last person standing, and many times the field is the last group standing, and they get ridiculed and blamed for lack of efficiency and not having the right executors on the job when they're dealing with decisions that were made that they had nothing to do with, and now they're just trying to make things happen in the field with not a whole collective effort. So I say that all to say that it's really how we create the environment to have this kind of transparent conversation. And it won't be effective if people don't feel like I can really tell you the answer. We have this saying that we want you to be able to say yes or no, but when you really can't say no inherently, whether someone says don't say no, it's really that you understand the spirit of that environment doesn't allow you to say no. What does your yes really mean? It means nothing. You're just doing something because you have to, but there's a bunch of issues that are tied to it.
So that goes back to your question at the beginning, what is innate for us? However, we have here a question from Summer. Hey, Henry, you mentioned the importance of teamwork and respect. How it only takes one person to bring back to the whole team? What advice do you have to bring those on board?
That's a great question as well. We're doing some work here at LCI about respect for people. It's one of the tenets for LCI United States, and it's the one tenet that's the most important that we've done the least amount of work in. And so lots of conversations that are evolving around respect and building trust. And one of the things that we did is that it's very easy, unfortunately, because we know what disrespect looks like. So we talked about, we approached it with an idea of, okay, we know that we want to be respected, but let's look at what does disrespect look like. And so what we did, we had this image of this person with this heavy weight on their back, and they're trying to perform their work. And so one of the things that we have to do is be able to have a conversation about it. All the stuff that we talk about with human beings and people and collaborating, they really begin with just people beginning to talk about some of the issues, and that they can actually address those issues in an environment that doesn't ridicule them for being honest. And so one of the things I would suggest is that you begin to have those conversations, and I guarantee you everybody in the room has something. And it's just a matter of who's going to be that person, that leader that can stand up and say, what are the issues, and begin to have that dialogue and not expect overnight success, but to recognize that it's like getting on a train, and it's one kind of turn at a time, that you're going to over time help transform that environment by people being willing and open to talk about the issues that they have. And many times it has to be that leader or someone that is most influential that's willing to say, this is an issue here. And so there's enough stories about disrespect that are all around our industry. And so we started with that to really look at this one item that's disrespectful that ties directly into my inability to be productive or my inability to be safe on my job. And thinking about those things, and unfortunately we can all relate because this industry has been so harsh towards people. And so I'd say it's about those small conversations that you can begin to have, and hopefully bring in some folks that some other allies and some folks with some influence to say, hey, this matters, and tie it into really to productivity, to just creating a better environment that allows us to be more effective in our daily tasks.
It's interesting because Professor Larry Koskela of course, famous and the father, as we say, of lean construction. I had the privilege to be one of his students at Salford. And what he said is not about, in one of his paper, is not about the process, about the management, the project management. It's about the manager. And the role of the manager is to make sure that people are there to do what they have to do with respect.
Right.
And I like your comment about the distinguish about the trust, but more important, judge to judge people against of talking and discussing with people. But unfortunately, how can we avoid this?
Yeah, avoiding. It's probably inevitable. We can't avoid it because we're going to deal with all these different behaviors and mentalities at a job site, or just in a project team every day. But what we can do, and I think this is one of the things that I try to do in my own walk, because I'm not just saying this. I'm gonna practice it, and that is being the first person to recognize when something is going off the path, being able to challenge the status quo, being able to ask questions and say, this is not okay. And sometimes it's like going upstream. Sometimes it feels uncomfortable. Sometimes it's like you feel like no one's going to listen to you. And there are times when I still feel like I'm awkward in regards to what I'm saying in a room where there's a bunch of folks that are thinking things, but they don't want to. No one wants to be the first person because you're embarrassed. But after years from me being in this industry, I'm looking at everyone in the room and recognizing that there is so much knowledge and talent and skill that is untapped because pride and different things will allow me to miss, and our team to miss out on something incredible to help our project do much better in different capacities. So it's really standing up and saying these things, and being an advocate for not just about doing the right thing, but recognizing how important it is to just support people where they're at. And does that mean that everyone's going to make it? No. There's still bad actors in the trade. Are there still bad actors that, were out there to manipulate the situation? There is always that. But I believe most people aren't that. And so we have to be an advocate and decide what are we going to stand for, and how we insert that, not so that we get ostracized and taken off the ship, but do it in a way that's professional, respectful, but effective. And that has to become a mission for us, and an individual has to say, hey, maybe you pull somebody to the side that that has some authority, and you can, you build some trust with that person, and you can tell them about certain things. All these different ways you can do things, and it's not easy. I tell you, it's not. It's hard work.
Over my career, what I find out, project management is a science. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a science because you bring over engineering and social sciences. And this is the future. As you said in your first minute, it's not about the robots, it's not about technology, AI, no. Let's go back to the next point from Harum. Hey, Henry, as a summary, what are the long-term benefits for the overall construction industry and its future development, do you think?
The long-term benefits for the construction industry, I think the long-term benefits are we are building incredible structures around the country that are amazing. The technology, the type of, think about construction. The world does not move without construction. Whether you're building a spaceship to fly you to the moon, or you're building a car, they have to have a facility where they do this research and science technology to put these things together. They have to have this structure that allows for that brain power to do whatever that mission is for that owner. Around the country, right? Around the world, there are so many amazing projects that still need people. And they need people to be proficient. They need people to be safe. They need people to be productive. And the things that require that are what we talked about in this presentation. Not just being the smartest in the room, but it's how to recognizing where you fit on the team to get the best out of the team. And so I think the construction industry has just, it's an amazing industry. I look at the articles every day about all the projects going on around the country, from high-speed rail to AI, to all these different things that, again, they require facilities, and they require us to be a part of those facilities to build their structures so they can do that work that they do. So we're connected to everything in the world when it comes to business. And so hospitals and schools and all these things that we build, there's a great future in it. And I believe that we have to figure out where we fit in that, and then run with that and become passionate about that. I didn't get in this industry to be a public speaker. I'm a sheet metal worker.
And I think, your answer nicely take us to the next question by Jobran. Says that some companies are inherently built around silos and isolated teams, which is enforced by rigid systems. However, what is your advice to start the process of breaking these barriers?
Yeah, I would say when you look at, and you're right, people are safe in their rigid systems, and they've been operating in them for forever. One of the things that I have the capacity to do, I got involved with some organizations that believe in this, like LCI. And one day I'm sitting around with my team and thinking about our owners. Who do we do work for? What are they looking at from us? And so I had a bunch of rigid field leaders that done things one way, but all of a sudden we had projects that required a different mindset. One of my mentors, his name is Victor Sanvito, and he says this around our company all the time. He says that the type of work that we acquire is going to impact what our people become. And you think about that. If all we do is go after the kind of work that is low bid, that's contentious, that doesn't showcase the value that we could bring, then we're always going to be in that environment where we're going to have jobs that look that with that rigid system. And so we have to exercise our capabilities and recognize that we are more than just that kind of contractor, and we want to pursue work that identifies the value that we bring, so that we can come to a table and begin to exercise that specific skill set that we have as a company with those individuals. And so I challenge my teams that you've done this one way for this many years, but now we're in a new day where projects require a different personality, a different mindset, and I need you to decide if you want to do that or not. And so it took some time, and so it kind of bucked the system and began to look at our approach. And then I became the champion of that work. Not the only person doing it, but I became the example of what I wanted other people to do. And it has taken many, many, many years, but I see it permeating throughout the industry, where individuals are stepping up and saying, it's not, again, just about this system that we have that's rigid does not meet the need of this owner. And so we have to figure out a way, because if we don't change, we're going to be like different projects or different skills that are essentially eliminated. Jobs that don't exist anymore because of technology. If you don't continue to exercise and grow and move forward and progress and re-innovate and continuously improve, that rigid system will be obsolete. And there'll be somebody who does it better. And at the same time, not only do they do it better, they actually like each other. And so, so it takes time, but it's like recognizing that system that you have, it's broken, and how does that impact the people that are working at that particular site or company? And you're going to lose your people, because there are going to be other companies that say, we're doing it a different way. And so those rigid companies with those rigid systems that stay stuck, we used to have people that take money at a bridge toll in the United States. And now that's all electronic, and there's no more toll takers, and that job is completely gone. And again, don't get innovated to the point where you're obsolete. You got to stay on the cutting edge and recognize that the old antiquated systems and ways will at some point fall to the wayside. but they require champions within those companies to be the spokespersons to help them.
I totally agree. I totally agree. And I would like to add something on this, Ken, if you allow me.
Yes.
You know, the importance and the biggest gap we can see, you know, under these circumstances is the gap of providing accurate data. You gave us a very good example of records. It's important to keep records.
Right.
For the sake of consistency, of efficiency. It's not about proving whether you are the elephant in the room or not. Okay, but it's about to feel peace in mind, so things can really progress forward.
Yeah, we say the numbers don't lie. This is one of the things that we always, you know, the data doesn't lie, and we have to read it and understand it and figure out how do we improve. And again, your improvement comes down to talking to your people.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. We had the other day here a workshop as a part of the MSc Global Business Communication. And the first thing, my first slide was about how humans are thinking and going through the hierarchy of human understanding, data, information, knowledge, and wisdom. People, they're really in a wow mode by saying data and information is the same thing. No, it's a big distinct difference. Be careful.
Right.
Because when you have a project, can make big difference.
Yeah, absolutely. No, absolutely.
Either a project or an organization, because it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, it's a part of an entity. Fantastic.